Yeah, Assalamualaikum and very good morning. Alright, before we start, please make sure you submit the attendance. Okay, so today we are going to continue sequence diagram part 2. I think it's going to be fast today. It's very straightforward. But before we start, let's look back at the last week's sequence diagram. So let's say we use the same case study about a customer wants to register e-wallet system. Okay, this question is actually from the tutorial. Okay, so let's say the answer is the below one, the below sequence diagram. I know that it's a little bit different from what we discussed last week. Wait, sorry. However, there is another set of answer. Okay, we have a customer that's going to register by clicking the e-wallet button on the e-wallet registration page, and then we have a control class to validate the customer through a database where we have an account table. We are going to search information through the account table, and that class will return back the information whether it's they found the information that they are looking for through validate customer control. Then the system will allow the registration process to register e-wallet. At the end, customer will get the display message through e-wallet registration page. Okay, so this is another set of answer for the last tutorial. So I'm going to use this for today's session. Okay, so most use cases imply at least one boundary object that manages the dialogue between the actor and the system. The control object manages the overall object communication, and the entity object that serves mainly on storing data or database table. Okay. Can anyone record this? Thank you. Okay, last week we have looked into object, lifeline, actor, activation, or we call it focus of control, and the messages. So this week we are going to learn the remaining notation where some of your friends already asked about if else, loop, okay? So where you can present it through sequence diagram, right? Okay, so before we go to that notation, last time we only focused on the actor and the classes involved, all the boxes, and then we have the line. Actually, to have a complete sequence diagram, you also need to have a frame, okay? It's just like the one that you have for use case diagram. Okay, so for the use case diagram, you put the name of the system. So however, for this one, we use this frame with the frame label, okay? The frame label is a SD, and then a use case name followed by a use case name or an operation name, okay? Usually we put a use case name lah, because that is the easiest one, because we always translate whatever we have in the use case diagram into a sequence diagram. So what the formula is just as simple as one use case equivalent to one sequence diagram. Therefore, the sequence diagram name, the one that you want to put in the frame label, is the use case name. Okay. Sorry for this one. The SD is a small s and d. SD is not represent sequence diagram. SD represent all interaction diagrams that you're going to use. Because if you can recall back, I think last week, PowerPoint slide, there are 4 types of interaction diagram. We have a sequence diagram, we have activity diagram, we have a timing diagram, we have interaction overview diagram. All start with SD. Okay, SD does not represent sequence diagram. SD represents interaction diagram. Okay, by looking at the diagram inside the frame, then we can know lah whether it is a sequence diagram or timing diagram or etc. Okay. Alright, let's say we have the registered e-wallet account. So the complete diagram is just something like this. Okay, you have all the sequence diagram inside the frame, and then you name the frame as a registered e-wallet account. Okay, so that registered e-wallet account comes from the use case name. Okay. Before that, let me share. Let me stop sharing first. Where did I put? Forgot already. Sorry, I'm at home, so you can hear everything. Okay, still loading. Okay. After a while, I can predict how this iPad is working. It's not like what we expect. There's some kind of steps. Okay, never mind. All right. So for this one, you can see this is how it looks like. I just want to show you this part. Okay, I want to show you this. This one should be in the small letter. Actually, this one is a typo because when you write, it's always make it capital, right? Okay, it's very minimal. Okay. So, a complex interaction can be modeled using interaction fragments. Okay. So, in this class, we are going to cover only 4. They got many actually. So, we call it as an alternative, iteration, optional, and reference. Okay. So, the notation is like this. Okay, where you can put, you will put the ALT, loop, OAPT reference over here. Okay. So for example, this is for alternate. Okay. If I can relate alternate with the program code, this one is meant for if else or case. All right. You have this one lah. Okay. So this one is the notation is something like this, alternate, and then you will have this. Okay. This one we call it as a guide. All right. The guide is the place where you put the condition. All right. and then followed by this, the dotted line. The dotted line is to show this one is the first condition, and then second condition, third condition. Okay. So for example, let's say we go for the same case study. We have exception flow for number 2. Okay, so number 2, the system validates if e-wallet being registered before. So if last time we don't really consider about the exception flow. Let's say the case study is extended to explain what if the e-wallet is not is invalid. The registration is invalid. So here it says that if the customer has registered the e-wallet, we have the invalid situation. The system displays an error message. You have registered your e-wallet. Thank you at the e-wallet registration page. So you can have something like this. All right. So this one is the upper part is remain the same, except the if e-wallet not registered. So it started with register e-wallet, and then you will display message, right? This one is a true condition. So if it's not true, if it's false, then you have else, all right? And then you put the display error message. Okay, so this one should be like this because sorry, I'm not the one who prepared, so I can blame someone else, is it? Right, biasalah, to err is human, isn't it? Okay, so this is how you do the alternate, as simple as that. So when you have for your project, I see a lot of alternate exception. Okay, so you should have this. All right, this one, if you look at the guide, this is a simple guide. All right, you just have e-wallet now register. If wallet registered, if it's not registered, it is something like this. Okay, or there is another way where you say that unregistered customer, and then this one registered customer. Okay, because we talk about customer, right? Yeah, we talk about customer. So now we have a condition whether the customer is registered or not. If unregistered, normal lah, display message, you are successfully registered. If not, then display error message, you have been registered. Okay, so this is a simple notation example of alternate. Another example, okay, continue drawing the sequence that if a customer requests to withdraw amount that is smaller than the balance. Okay, this is another case study. The bank shall send message to ATM in order to dispense the cash. Otherwise, the bank shall send message to ATM in order to display an error message to inform customer about the insufficient balance. All right. So we have ATM class, we have bank class, and we have account class. All right. So the customer enter amount, and then inform how many he wants to withdraw, and then you will check the database, check balance lah. And then it will reply back the balance to tell the bank whether it's sufficient or not. So the condition is like this: amount balance less than balance, amount that is requested less than balance, then dispense cash. Else, display error message insufficient balance. Okay, so it's just like this. It's simple as this. This one also like this. Go to like this. Okay. I think in that case, it means that enter amount withdraw. This one, it could be this. Square bracket. What is the square bracket? For the guide, is it? Yes. For the guide, yes. Okay. Anything wrong with this one? Okay kan? This one is compulsory. This bracket, is compulsory. If you do not put that, then you will make, what we call that? It's hard to see. It's hard to see your diagram because you have all the messages as well. So at least you better put it in the guide. And most of them you put in the guide. Okay. All right. Any questions so far for this one? So that's for alternate, if else. Okay. So the next one is, can we only include if? Oh, yes, we can. That one is another one. You have to wait for a while. That one is, we call it as OPT, optional. Okay. So before we go to that OPT, we go to loop first. Alright. So for the loop, okay, loop just like for loop lah. For loop, while loop, do while. What else? I think I got another one other than, okay, never mind. Okay, you know that, right? You all are very good in programming. So the notation is still the same. You will have to use a fragment. Okay. You have to use a fragment and then followed by the fragment label, LOOP, loop, and then you must have guide here. Okay. With the guide consists of the condition lah. For loop is always about the minimum until the maximum number, isn't it? Okay. And then followed by all the processes as in the messages. Okay. So let's look into the example. Okay. So for the example, let's say we have an inventory worker is required to key in information on new products. Refine the following sequence diagram with a loop fragment. Okay. So we have inventory worker and then we have product registration page. Let me highlight this. This is the class name. A product registration page, the other one is the object name. We show you the object name so that you know how loop happen. Alright. For your FYP, for your project, if you do not want to put the object name, it's fine. Okay. This one just to show you how the loop works. For example, for the second class, we have check in product, and then this one is the number of product. It depends. Okay, between 1 until how many. Okay, so this we put it in an array. So that's why we put it like this. Okay, and then we have product table. Okay, as in the product class lah. Alright, so the inventory worker enter number of product with n. Okay, and then followed by depending on the n. So display new product form. This one is nothing lah. And then the inventory worker will enter information So for the product number 1, right, enter product ID and name, and then it will check in the product ID and name, save it into database. Okay. So once it is saved, stored into database, then we return back to the inventory worker as a display message. So this one is between I1 until N depends on the inventory worker. So this is how the loop looks like. Actually, I'm not really agree with this. Cover sampai bawah lah. Kenapa lah dia nak stop? Okay. What's the question just now? Yeah. Then it will be inside, maybe for Lynn's question, in that case, you might have loop inside if, inside alternate, or alternate inside loop. Okay, it's just like in your programming. Okay. Any other question? All right, so this is first example. So next, second example. So this one is just to show the different label. Okay, iterative bound. We know already how many numbers are allowed to enter into the system. Let's say it's allowed only 5. So you can put the loop 1, 5. You see? The first parameter is the minimum number, and the second one is the maximum number with comma. Okay. So the process is still the same, enter number of product, and then you don't have guard because you say this one allow up to 5 product only, and then the rest is the same process. Okay. So if you had, so you got choice whether you want to use this second way or you can use the first. Alright, it's up to you. Can you use loop 1 until N? Yes. Instead of 5, you can also put N here. So N depending on this. Okay, enter number of products. So there are 2 ways lah. Actually, there are many ways as long as people understand it is the condition. People want to know what's the condition for that fragment. Okay. So this one is another example of guard. Guard can be written in various of ways. Example in the bracket, more new product, or in the bracket has another product equal to yes. So this one is very much to the your implementation, right? If you use this kind of guide, it's very much into semantic. It's not really so much into programming code. You know, most of the time, students give me the one that's close to the syntax, the program code. But actually, it's not necessarily. If you look at the textbook, sometimes they use this kind of guide. It's very semantic. It's open, open to interpretation. How you're going to develop. Okay. So this one has another product. Yes. So this one repeat. Repeat, right? It's like a loop. This one maybe for loop, right? While loop. Sorry, while loop. Display new product form. Enter info. Check in. Save. Has another product, yes or no? So select answer and then go back. Select answer. If it is yes, then display new product. This one is for while loop. While loop. Okay. All right. Okay. Any question? Senang kan? because it's very close to programming. That's why your programming FOP is very critical, because you're going to use that knowledge until final project. If not, then it's hard for you to understand the theory courses. Okay. The next one is the optional. Okay. An alternative fragment is used to specify an area of a group of lifeline or actors that interact under a certain option. Okay, the fragment is only if the supplied condition is true. So equivalent to an alternate only with one trace, without else lah. Okay, just like Emily asked just now. So you can have something like this. This is the notation. Okay, just put the fragment label with the condition and then what will happen. If this condition apply, then this message will be executed. Okay. So this is an example to show you the combination of alternate, loop, and op. Okay. So you can see here there is no actor. Okay. Whoever, doesn't matter. All right. So I think because I remember there is one of you asked me what if there are many actors involved for one particular use case. Maybe the easy way to do is like this, without drawing the actor. Okay, because we just realized that the actor in the sequence diagram is not part of the development. Is the people or the role involved, you know, to use that use case. So you can straight away go dispatch. This one is another method of doing sequence diagram, but I don't really like this because it makes sequence diagram messy. They use this number, but some people like this because they can see the flow one after another. See? Okay. So it's up to you. But then if you got so many messages, it's better not to put it because it's going to be very messy. Your sequence, okay? But then it's up to you again. So you can see that for each line item, so if the value more than 15,000, then they will dispatch to careful distributor. If it's less than 15,000, then it will dispatch to regular distributor. Okay, you have that condition in your project, right? Where at the end you put there as a actor with the generalization, blah 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 blah. And then when I ask you what's the difference, there's no difference between them, right? There's no difference in terms of use cases. But then there is a situation where, okay, admin go to this one, super admin go to this one, you know. So this is how you represent that situation. Okay. That's why sometimes it's good to use object, not only class. So you can inform there. Okay, so this is a guide, and then there is an option where you need, if confirmation is needed, then you will go to confirm the messenger. So this one is a optional. Okay. It's not like, maybe it's kind of a button there that you need, you have the option to click that button to confirm, or you can ignore, right? So, but then if the user click the button, then the confirmation will go to the messenger. All right. So this is how loop, alternate, and optional looks like. What if the actor is a support actor? Support actor. What do you mean by support actor? I don't understand, Emily. It could be that one will be it's not actor. It could be that one is usually lah. Usually you become entity as a table in the database, isn't it? Am I right? Oh, it doesn't matter. Good question. Regardless whether your actors on the left or on the right, you must have sequence diagram for all use cases. And then even though you draw the actor on the right side, but in the sequence diagram, it will always start from the left side. Okay? Any other questions? Okay, so the last fragment is the reference. Okay, so a reference fragment allows to call another interaction. For example, to call another sequence diagram. So this one, when can you use this? Anyone wants to try? When can you use this situation? A reference fragment allows to call another interaction. For example, to call another sequence diagram. Yes, pandai Ong. Include, extend. Yes. Alright. So, this is how you do that. So, when you have the sequence diagram, let's say this another sequence. Let me show you. Where is it? This it's very small. So skip. Trigger. Yes, you can trigger. It will trigger not necessary in the situation of extend, right? It's not compulsory in a certain situation. The extended use case will be called. So you will put op, and inside op you will have reference. What is the extended use case name? Okay, it will be like this. Op reference. Lalu apa verify. No. Forget password. Forget password. Yalah. Okay. So you can see from this example, okay. So we have a customer withdraw cash, very small. Withdraw cash, and then we get balance, and then we'll go to balance lookup. Okay, that balance lookup is another use case, and then we return something which is balance, where the ATM will use it for another process. If the balance greater than amount, then it will debit, okay, the amount to the debit account. So debit account is another sequence diagram. Then it will return another display, for example, and then it will go back to cash. return message. Okay. So it combines the alternate reference. Mana? That balance lookup is another one. So how do you do the this one? It starts from get balance account number, right? It comes from here. See, right? And then it must always end with balance. Okay, balance. See, this is the balance. Sorry, not that one. This balance. Okay, which you will pass to the another class lah. This one. Okay. So in other words, this tak boleh highlight. In another word, this one and this one must be the same, because that is what you return from balance lookup, and then that is the one that you the other use case in the other sequence diagram need to process. Okay. Any other question? Okay. We have looked into 4 so far. 4 automatic. Okay. 4 fragment. Okay. But actually in the sequence diagram, that reference is not part of the operator. Okay. That one is just to refer to another sequence diagram. So far for interaction operator, we covered 3 basic ones. Okay. When actually they got many. You see, berdiri. There is another one that by right you can use this. For those who have this agent, robot, sensor, all these, you know, the one that you propose, most probably you're going to use parallel. The processes happen at the same time. Okay. Other than that, we don't really frequently use lah. We seldom use break. Unless you are very good in FOP using break, then you might use break in your sequence diagram. There are situations where you will stop. You will not do the rest due to some condition, right? You will stop straight away. So you can use break. Okay, that is very common lah. Actually, but then last time FOP, I don't see, you know, in the slide that cover break, but I'm not sure about yours. If you comfortable with break, it means you can apply that in your project. Okay. Parallel is another thing. It's just a matter of you put parallel. Parallel, just put parallel je lah. Parallel like this. And then this. Okay lah. Let me see. Tak nampak ya. Parallel is like this. Parallel. For example, you got condition 1, you got condition 2, you got condition 3, you got condition 4. So everything happened at the same time. You know? I do not know lah. This one, let's say this is another class. You get me right? So all of this happen at the same time. So that's parallel. And it's very relevant to most of your projects. I can see that. Okay. So that's all for sequence diagram. Basically, for this, like you just want you want to show you the guideline for sequence diagram. First, you have to decide at what level you are modeling. So far we cover the 3-tier sequence diagram, all right? And then identify the lifeline, the CRC, what are the classes involved, all right? What are the objects involved? And then draw the outline structure of the diagram, okay, the frame, the lifeline, and then start putting all the messages, okay? Once you put the messages happen, at the beginning, it's very structured, okay, one after another. However, while you are doing that, then you realize that there are some alternatives or loop, optional, okay, or go to another sequence diagram situation. So you start using the operators just now, okay, and then you have to check for the consistency with reference sequence diagram or modify as necessary, and then check for consistency with other UML diagram, especially use case, class diagram, and state machine. We do not cover state machine yet. So make sure that all use cases have their own sequence diagram, and all classes that you put in your sequence diagram must exist in the class diagram. Okay. What if the use case does not have interface? It's possible, not necessarily, because if you go for embedded system, there's no interface, right? Not necessarily. One sequence diagram doesn't mean that you must have all class types. Okay, it can be like all control. It's possible. Okay, and then model consistency. The objects must be consistent with the class diagram. Just like what I mentioned. And then messages must match with the operation in the class of the object. So whatever messages you mentioned in the sequence diagram, you must have it in your class diagram as well. And then the story of the sequence diagram, the flow, must tally with the one that you mentioned in the use case description. Okay. In the 3-tier sequence diagram captures the order of the interaction between actors and objects within a collaboration that realizes a use case. In this case, all sequence diagrams should be consistent with the use case diagram. This one is, again, this point actually talking about the use case description. Okay. Messages on interaction diagram must be consistent with the state diagram for the participating object. So this one you will use again your sequence diagram for the next diagram, which is state diagram. Okay. Implicit state changes in interaction diagram must be consistent with those explicitly modeled in state diagram. So at the moment you do not have state diagram yet. Okay. But then you can start drawing your sequence diagram. Again, just like your use case diagram, you just realize that, oh, actually we missed something. Our use case description is wrong. You know, it's not complete lah, not properly wrong. It's not complete. Once we draw the sequence diagram, we realize that there are so many messages involved. There's many flow of events. Okay, the main flows. So you have to redo again, revisit your use case diagram, use case description. At this point, I think your use case diagram is quite okay. All right. Now it's about use case description. So once you develop the sequence diagram, again, you have to look back your use case description whether it's tally or not. Okay. And then at the same time, the person who draw class diagram has looked into the sequence diagram that have been developed, whether you have all the classes or not. We must tally, okay? And then together with the messages. So that is why even though I ask you in the group contract who in charge in particular diagram, but actually this is a group project. You cannot work alone. You must talk to each other. Okay, this one, and then again, once the person, this person in charge of the state diagram start developing his diagram, then the sequence diagram person has to change something again. Because you do not put yet the change of the object. Not yet. You do not cover that yet. Okay. And again, sequence diagram will change his diagram again. Where's the timing? Do you have to draw timing diagram? I think timing diagram. State and the timing is very close. The change of the model, change of object sometimes involves state. Involves time, sorry. Okay, so you will keep on changing. So that is why I need, at the end of this, of your project, I need the last report. The first report that I ask you to submit now is to make sure that you are doing the right thing. Okay, I can ask you actually submit the last one, but then you do not know whether you are in the right track or not, whether you draw it correct or, so that's why I ask you to submit bit by bit. But the last one actually that carry the full mark, the whole thing. Okay, I don't want you to burden yourself at the end of week 13 when you have other subjects. Okay, so that's all for sequence diagram. It's very simple. Okay, next will be activity diagram. Okay, it's we still under interaction diagram. We call it as the activity diagram. Same thing, but different notation. That's all. Okay, but then the activity diagram allows you to have swim lane to partition your sequence diagram basically. You learn that later. Any questions? Tak ada soalan? So if you have no question, that's all for today. So this is the references. I'm not sure whether, okay. But then my advice, if you want to study more about UML, is always textbook. Always. I think you can go for the UML reference manual. That is the first thing, first reference I used to study UML 2.0. Very technical lah. But then you can get everything there. Okay. So that's all for today. Thank you very much. Good luck for your project. Okay, see you on Thursday for the tutorial. We give you a lot of questions. Please do the questions so that you know whether you understand the concept correct. Okay. Bye. Assalamualaikum.